How's it going, guys? This is the Lore and Order Podcast, Episode 3, and as always, I'm Jack.
And I'm Anna.
And today we're going to be talking about art in video games, which is a very important topic to us, as both of us have been playing games for a while and have very much seen the evolution from... well, Anna, you started with the Atari, right? That's what your thing was.
Well, I didn't start playing with the Atari. It's just more of a fascination as I grew older, but it's a really good reference place to see, like, where games all... like home gaming began because of the artists for Atari games were programmers, so that's why they look like garbage.
Yeah, they weren't exactly artists, quote unquote. I started with the PlayStation, which is my first thing. So I remember the old what was probably the worst looking one I can think of was Jet Moto 2, which is like it was like technically a 3D game, but everything was like all pixelized and like really just like really janky.
Oh, good.
And it's an amazing to see how far things have come. And so to start off this topic, the way I think of art in games is I think there's about like 4 or 5 main broad versions of graphics I can think of, which would be like pixel for one.
Yeah.
Hand painted hand painted for 3D, because I'm thinking like Life is Strange is kind of a unique case where it's like the textures aren't made to be realistic, right? It's like a 3D hand painted to make kind of like a stylized version.
Yeah, I agree.
Realistic like Skyrim and like Darksiders 2, which is like heavy on bump maps and specular, which doesn't always look great, as Skyrim has showed us, but it's kind of the trying to be more realistic. And I guess I'd lump that in with like the modern games now, because they've got like, HD lighting or high definition lighting and all that, all that good stuff. Did I have another one? Pixel, 3D bump, hand painted. And cell shading, of course, which is kind of like, cell shading is actually kind of interesting, and that'll play into a couple, or at least 1 or 2 of my games on my lists that we'll be talking about, because cell shading is, it's interesting because, it started out like, the first one I can think of, well, there's more in like the PlayStation era, but one comes to mind is Wind Waker, obviously, because everyone was like, oh wow, Wind Waker holds up so well and it's so cool. But cell shading is kind of like, it's a weird kind of in between, because it's, it's 3D trying to look like 2D.
Yeah.
And
it's super stylized.
Yeah, and there's kind of some cool workarounds. And I guess we'll just be starting with this. But have you ever heard of the game? I think it's called Guilty Gear, the fighting game.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's a 3D fighting game, but it's designed to look like 2D. But it has like very advanced cell shading, and like they actually like found a different way to like shade it so it doesn't like it doesn't look like cell shaded 3D. It looks like 2D 3D, like 2D cell shading, even though it's a 3D game, because they basically found like a way to eliminate all essence of 3D and make these characters like really, really well animated to look like 2D models, even though they're 3D. Like, it was like a huge thing. They had a discussion at the GDC, and like they're like, yeah, we went in and like edited every vertex to have a different like reflection color palette, and like
Jesus.
It's really interesting.
Oh god.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really nice looking game, even though the controls are just it's it's a fighting game at the end, but that's really a cool instance of cell shading, I think, because you have like Breath of the Wild and Ni no Kuni, which like they look nice, but it's like their characters are cell shaded, and then the backgrounds are like the 3D like environments are all like kind of painted textures almost.
It doesn't
like,
quite fit.
Yeah, like the characters are always kind of disconnected from their world in a way. And I think Breath of the Wild kind of gets away with it because like the environment's like, it's simple enough that like it's not too contrasting. But I think that's always the interesting part of cell shading, is you kind of have to like mix the two together in a way that doesn't like take the characters out of the environment. It's kind of like if you ever watch like I'm gonna use Family Guy as an example. Whereas what I think is really great about Family Guy, in terms of design, is that the characters actually look like the backgrounds.
Right.
Like they're painted in the same kind of like, well, not painted, but they're colored in the same kind of style.
Yeah.
Whereas a show like Um, I just can't think of one offhand.
Well, like
But
South Park, like the characters are like
yeah,
paper people, and the
yeah,
background looks a
yeah.
little more like hand drawn.
Or Gumball for one thing.
Well, that's a
even
completely different.
that's yeah, that's just like they just use straight up, realistic backgrounds or pictures.
They do whatever
Um,
they want, really, for that.
exactly. But like it doesn't take away, but I think it is kind of sometimes an important aspect to consider
Yeah.
because that is the benefit of some 3D games like Skyrim, where it's like at least the characters like are part of your environment. And I think Wind Waker kind of gets away with it too because most of the environment is like simple shaders. It's not like they use maybe painting or painted textures just for like for detail and not for like lighting or anything. And a lot of cell shading comes from the light source in particular because if you look at like Wind Waker HD,
Yeah.
all they really did was add like a bloom and like change the lighting. That's really all they did and update the textures a bit for the remake,
Right.
which is really like all like cell shading, like that's all the progressive like technology that's so it's just better lighting really
Yeah.
because you have two colors or three colors if you have a specular, and if you look at again like Breath of the Wild as an example, the environments are really just like they're just all bump maps.
Yeah.
Like, they're pretty cool textures, but it's really just bump maps to sell it because you can't like fit a game that scope.
You can't have that detailed
with-
models.
with severe detailed models. So that kind of worms its way into a lot of my game style. So I guess we'll go ahead and start with we're gonna do our not top 10 but 10 of our favorite like art style games. I don't know how to word it, like
Our favorite games that the art really stood out to us, I guess, like where the art was a crucial part of the experience to it.
design style, how we remember it, things like that. So do you want to start? I'll let you go ahead and do number one.
Okay. So, because I just remembered this, because I didn't originally write it down, well, Bendy and the Ink Machine is definitely one. It's a recent game. It only has 2 chapters out. The third one's coming out soon, hopefully. But what I love about this game is that it's going with the very classic cartoon style of, like, like Steamboat Willie, Betty Boop, like that's old
Yep.
style, but put it in a 3D world. So you have like the wood floor, the desk, like everything is stylized to look like it was in a old like, cartoon, which I think is because this is a horror game, and like a lot of horror games are like super realistic. Like they go for like, well, the scariest thing in life is like real life, but with this, like it kind of goes with the whole like cartoon and making that horrifying. And I think like a stylized horror game is really interesting because for me that was the selling point for this game, because I hate horror games because I am a wuss. I jump so easily and it just wouldn't have worked out. But
Right.
here's a game that like with a unique style that I'm like this makes it interesting. I want to play this. I'm going to get over my fear of jump scares and whatnot and go into this game because I feel like the art of this world also heavily connects to like what is going on in it, because it's about a ink machine that brings these creatures to life, like these cartoons to life, and that I feel like will have a really interesting story to it. But it was the art that really grabbed me because again, it's like horror games. We go super realistic now. Like every like horror game now is like, how can we make it more realistic? Well, this one's like, we're going to keep like the models are fairly simple, except for like the people ones. But people are more detailed. But we're going to keep it simple. We're going to keep it stylized. And I think that's like, for me to play a horror game is a minor miracle. So the whole like. I was intrigued by the art style because like old cartoons are messed up. They're real
Right.
messed up if you like look at them. So like that adds a whole another layer to the storytelling of this game through the art. Because if you watch all those old ones, they're real screwed up. Like when Donald Duck was a Nazi. But granted, that was propaganda for the US being like, oh man, I'm glad I'm not a Nazi.
Yeah.
But like that's kind of weird and messed up. So like you like having that in mind when I'm playing this game, I'm like, man, there's so much to this world and to these characters that I have yet to see, and I'm very excited. And the art list really brings that home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely a great one. So for me, my number 10 or number 1, whatever list order we're going, I was going to say Wind Waker HD, but since I already talked about that a bit with the cell shading, actually we're going to place that with Limbo. Have you ever played Limbo before?
I have not played it, but I'm familiar with it enough because that's usually a good example for my classes. Is like, let's look at these games. What does this game tell you about it? It's like, oh, this is a really dark world. Exactly, it's a very dark world.
Yeah, Limbo is really interesting because for one, it's like really, really, really well designed in terms of like how they hide everything in the shadows and how your little flashlight like reveals everything and things like that. And it's interesting too because they're playing with such a muted color palette. Everything's just dark, and yet like that is the core essence of the game and how they're able to convey like, it's a horror game, but it's not quite like, there are a couple of jump scares for sure, and that part of that is with the sound design too, which is really good.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just an instance of a game where it's just like the game is all focused around like of what you can't see and what you have a hard time seeing, which I think really I think I played like maybe a couple hours of it, just because it does get kind of like frustrating. But what I really like about it too is it doesn't like punish you when you die. Like it kind of just brings you back, because there are a lot of instances where it's a brutal game, but it's like because it's very like nice about putting you back where you were.
Yeah.
Like it's almost kind of like funny at times because like you'll just be walking and all of a sudden like a spider just stabs you through the chest and you're just like, oh, like, and then it just brings you back, and it brings you back. It's like, okay, next time, like now you know what to do.
Yeah.
Because I hate games where it's like, they have such a really hard like out of nowhere surprise, and then it's like, oh, you got to go back to where you were. It's like, come on, that's
yeah, you
not,
have to go
like,
all the way
that's
back.
Not fair.
Yeah, no,
that's not fair. But yeah, Limbo is a great example of I think a game designed around like a muted colors like art style.
Oh, yeah.
Because again, it's all just dark and shadows and things like that, and I think that's a good. That's definitely a good place to put my first choice of a game.
Well,
all right, so
I was gonna say with that is like because it's a platformer, if my memory is correct, right?
Yep.
So
2D platformer.
So like if you take like that game and like Mario, because they're both platformers, and it's like you can off the bat just a screenshot of both, you can tell the distinct difference of like what is happening within this world, even though they're both platformers and have similar mechanics. Like you can tell these are going to be two very different experiences strictly through the art, which is like another thing to add to this game. Is just like there are a lot of other platformers. This stands out because it's dark and muted, and like you're going to have a bad time, but it's not like, oh, Mario, like, oh shucks. It's like death and violent deaths for the character.
Great game. I need to finish it at some point. All right. So what's your number 2?
See, I think my number 2 is going to be a game called Thumper. It came out. I know it's on PC, Xbox. The Switch has it, and it was advertised as like a rhythm violence game, but basically you're kind of like a little beetle, and you're like going around and you have to hit the beats and whatnot, like react accordingly. And this game is beautiful in a very like disturbing way because it's hard to describe because it's very like spacey and like kind of like trippy because you have like the track in front of you coming together but then also coming apart, and like you don't see like something coming and all of a sudden it appears, so it kind of feels like a nightmare almost that you're in. And the music also is great, but that's not the point here. But the game, like when I'm playing this, like it just feels so smooth and like it's kind of cool that you feel like you're piloting this little beetle thing and you're like reacting, you're going to the turns, you're hitting the beat, and like it just feels really nice when you're like looking at it, and the design isn't too distracting. It's not like, oh, well, here are all these flashy colors. It's like there are other things going on. that really adds to the experience of you reacting and you going through like space or like some weird like purgatory thing, and then you have the boss at the end of the level is this really creepy space skull thing that will come up and you're like fighting it and you blow it up. It's like there's not a lot of art to it. I mean, like the design of like having like it's almost like fingers like interlock and then they coming apart while you're going through it. Or these tunnels that appear out of nowhere, and it's just it creates such a weird atmosphere for a game that I've never really seen before. But while playing it, like it just feels so right for it, for a game where it's pretty intense and like you really got to be on your toes and be paying attention to everything. So it's like sometimes like the backgrounds are busy, but it's not like incredibly distracting. Like, oh, I'm never going to get through this because everything else is distracting me from it. You're like, no, I can see what's going on, but it's still like a real nice experience going through these levels.
Yeah.
And it's just I highly recommend it as a game just to look at for a bit because it's incredible, just the design of it, and it really there's no other game that I know like it. Because I know a lot of games are like, okay, you're going to be moving on the beat, you're going to be doing stuff on the beat. But like this was just something else entirely for me, and the art really sold that. Like again, is another game where I looked at what the art was and went, oh, okay. Now this this instantly caught my eye. I need to know more about this. Oh, it's a rhythm like game where you have to like make sure you're on beat and you like kind of follow the music. Okay, I can dig that. And you're just like, oh man, no, this is way more. So for me, like art has always been kind of like, you know, when you're at a bookstore, like never judge a book by its cover, but it's like the first thing you notice to make you grab it off the shelf.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And then, like, but this, it's shiny and smooth, and this creates a really surreal experience going through the levels.
Yeah.
So that's my number 2.
Great. All right. My number 2, let's see. I'm going to try to kind of like separate some of these categories. Let's do, all right, so number 2 for me is Rayman Legends, which is
that's a good choice.
one of the like best designed 2D platformers I've ever seen and possibly ever played. It's a really, really, really good game. And what makes it so great is it's like Ubisoft's French division, I think. It has to be, because it's like...
Yeah, I believe so. It's like Montreal. So
yeah, it's
French.
like Ubisoft Frameworks or something, which does such an amazing job. Like, all the animations, of course, too. Like, even, but it's just, like, the environment designs. Like, I remember there was a demo for it for Wii U before it came out.
Yeah.
And, I remember I played it for the first time, and I played, like, the Toad Story level or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was just blown away with just the design of the backgrounds and how, like, everything was animated and the music. And I was just, like... It was, like, the last time I can remember buying a game, like, at full $60 price. Like, I was in high school, maybe, and I was just like, I want this game. Like, I don't care if it's not going to be on sale. I just want to buy it.
Yeah.
And I did, and I love it to this day. I think it's you know, it's so cool to see, like, you know, hand-drawn frames for characters, and just, like, the way they just paint some of the backgrounds is just amazing. And they have, like, great lighting details in all the scenes, and there's the music levels that are all timed to, like, the song, you know, and they syncopate the beats, and there's a mariachi version of Eye of the Tiger, and oh man, Rayman Legends is just like, it's a one-of-a-kind game, and I'm glad they it was originally only going to be for the Wii U, but of course they didn't want that because the Wii U was the Wii U.
No one wanted the Wii U.
Yeah, and now I think there's like a Switch like remastered version or something.
Yeah, it's coming out soon.
Version coming out, yeah, which I'm glad to see, because it's one of my favorite platformers, and there's not like a whole lot to talk about, just because like it's just a really like nice looking game. You know, it's hand painted and some great animations, but like it's definitely one of the best designed platformers. And I'll say one of, because I have a couple others in mind that I can remember. But
that's fair.
In terms of its like, you know, drawn frames for characters and hand painted background stuff, it's pretty great. So that's my number 2.
So my number 3 is a little older game, and by a little older, I think it's like 13 years old at this point. It's Psychonauts.
Oh yeah, Psychonauts.
So I haven't finished it yet, but I've played a decent amount of it at this point. And what I love about it is that the gameplay and the art still stand up after being like after 12 years, because the art for it is so stylized that like a lot of the older games they're going for realistic. Like you look at it now and you kind of gag a little from the it's like, oh really, like they're doing their best, but oh Jesus no. This game, because all the characters were very stylized, they weren't normal looking, makes
certainly not normal looking.
It makes them look still good to this day. That like I can play a game and be like, this is my first time ever experiencing this, and I could be like, this game could have come out last week and I would be totally fine with it. So like, because I had really no details about this game beforehand, just I knew a lot of people loved it, and it was like a cult classic basically. So I'm like, I'll give it a shot. I got it for like $1, so I'm like, I'll play it. And through playing it, it's just like the story, the characters are amazing, and I'm just like, wow, like this game came out like 12 years in like game time is like ancient, really. Like that's an old game, but it still stands up through its stylization, which I like it when games do that, when the characters aren't just like, oh, we're going to make this super realistic, which I have no issue with super realistic, but it kind of gets tiring after a while. And then here's a game that comes up and is like, we're going to make our characters look odd. We're going to make them look unique and stand out. And that pretty much all the characters, if you were just to give me the outline of them, I'll be able to recognize who they are. Because they're very uniquely shaped. No two characters look the same. Unless they're like meant to look the same. Because I think they're like twins in the game. Some memory of me is telling me there's twins. But like, they look... Twins, every character looks unique. And I can tell who they are, and you kind of get like a bit of knowledge of who they are just by like how they're dressed and how they are. And then you have the world itself, which is like when you go into so you have like, you know, the camp counselors who are like psychics. So you go into their minds to like learn a new ability, and like their mind is so uniquely designed to go with their personality. So you have like the sergeant guy, you go in his head, like it's all like military stuff, and like the fragments that you pick up are like all military based. And you have the one psychic, I'm really bad with names, so woman the woman is the best way to describe her because she's the only like female. Her is very like party and disco, like very 60s vibe to it, which is really cool. And you get like kind of more of that like level of design of like you get to learn more about them through how the inner workings of their mind is. And then there's also collectibles in a game called Emotional Baggage, where you find the tags for, and literally that's the greatest thing on this planet. Like, oh, you found their emotional baggage, or you find like another thing that kind of unlocks to learn more about something they've repressed deep in their mind. So like the design of this game is just, it stands up, and I heard talk of them making a second one, and I hope so, because like this game's good.
I was just gonna bring that up. I think there's supposed to be, it's either a remaster or a second one.
Yeah, I think they're making a second one, but I know they made something for like the PlayStation like VR, or they did some VR demo with Psychonauts.
Yeah, because I remember seeing like HD versions of the character or something. So I think there is going to be something coming up. And there's also, like talking about the level design too. Like I think the Milkman, like the Milkman's like mind or whatever, is supposed to be like one of the best design levels, because they're all like all of the set pieces and the environments like are meant to like represent like the inner psychology of the characters.
Yeah.
Like there's one level that the YouTuber Mother's Basement does like a breakdown of, that I should send you, where he talks about how like it's like the theater woman who's like dealing with like, she's like bipolar or something, because like she's like still like trapped in her own like failures as like a theater performer or something.
Yeah.
And the whole level is basically like one giant metaphor for like, you know, her internal like struggles and stuff like that. And every level is like that, where it's like, you know, the level is the character's mind, and it's designed in a way that to represent like what they're dealing with, and like who they are as like a person, and like what their inner mind, obviously like the workings of are. And yeah, it's a game where it's just like, it's like you don't get like better designs in terms of like purpose than Psychonauts, you know. Like, everything looks like that for a reason, and is designed like that for a reason. And yeah, it's definitely a very impressive game to still hold up to this, you know, day and age as well.
Good job, Double Fine.
Yeah.
Bless them.
Yeah, they did a great job. Yeah, so is that it for Psychonauts?
That's it for Psychonauts.
Alright, so let's see. So, for my number 3, I'm gonna say Sly Cooper 2. What was it called? Not Band of Thieves. I'm forgetting the name. Sly 2. Is it Band of Thieves? I think
Yes, it's Band of Thieves.
Yeah, Band of Thieves, that's what it's called. Which is one of my favorite games for the PlayStation 2. And what's interesting about it is, I actually didn't play it like when I had a PS2 when I was growing up.
Right.
For some reason, I think I like played it once. And I got it in high school after I had like the Wii and stuff.
Yeah.
And I actually played it with AJ too, and we both love it because it's a cel-shaded game, but what makes it unique is that they use the cartoon outlines for all the characters and the models, and they're really, really thick, like comic-style cartoon lines. And what's so great about it is, like, the entire game, like, just looks like one big comic book. And every time, like, you hit an enemy, there's like a POW, you know, like, written, like, as you're hitting them and stuff like that.
Batman and Robin?
That, like, yeah, and it has, like, that trumpet accent when you hit them, like, bam!
Nice.
Like, you know, when you, like, knock them out and stuff. And it's such a well-designed game. And, again, it's very simple models. Like, half of them are just, like, really low-poly assets.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, they're all simple shaders, and they got that really thick, like, cartoon style.
Yeah.
And it's a really, really nicely designed game. And the music is excellent at every level. The way it's structured is there's, like, 7 hub worlds. And your main goal in each one is like to perform a heist because you're trying to steal back these like parts from like this mechanical bird that like tormented your family when you were a kid or something.
Okay.
Yeah, and each part of the level has sections where you need to set up for the heist. So it's like you need to take reconnaissance pictures of this, and you need to like set up this so you can perform like one cool heist. And it's so cool and well designed because every time you're about to do the heist, like, you have this character Bentley who's like this like really nasally turtle that like AJ and I always make fun of because he's like the funniest character. And he always does these like slideshow presentations, and they're very like low res, and like he like draws on them, and he's like all right, Sly, we're gonna move in here, and we're gonna like, he circles like the thing, and like the way they present the game is just like, it's so good, and all the voice actors are great, and it's a great plot. Yeah, Sly 2 is just it's a game unlike I've probably ever seen, and I think there's like PS3 remaster or maybe like a new game for it or something that like doesn't really do it justice, because it's really like a game I feel like can only look good in that style of like that low poly kind of PS2 era. Yeah. But the whole game is just super well designed, and like it's cel shading, but it's also cel shading done with like just the thick cartoon lines just add a nice accent to it, because usually when games do that, it's either non-existent. Like, I don't think Breath of the Wild has any outlines for the characters.
I don't think so.
Because those are actually really hard to render. At least in Maya they are. But I think even like Ni no Kuni doesn't do it too. Like, it's rare to see the kind of outline to some of the shapes. But it's a really well done style, and even the third game, which is maybe not quite as good, but is just as good in terms of design and style of all the characters and all the music and the voice acting. So yeah, Sly 2 is definitely up there with one of my favorites.
I like how stylized it is, because like if you make a game super stylized, that's how you can make it almost timeless. Like if the gameplay is still good and like is a super stylized game, it will last a long time because people will be like,
Yeah.
"Oh man, I just love how it looks. It looks
and
like so comic booky."
Yeah, and they also have like the intro before every levels is like they're like literally hand drawn like comics,
Oh, nice.
and they're animated too, so it's
Ooh.
really really cool. How they do some of like the presentation, and it's just like a really really good game and super stylized, and yeah, it's really fun, for sure. So yeah, are we on number 4 now?
I think so. So I think
Yeah, 4.
my number 4 game will be BioShock Infinite, which is really funny because I said, oh, like something about realistic looking games. I mean, they tried their best. The children look
Yeah.
weird, but like what I love about this game is not just the so the part of the art that I love the most in this is the level design, like the design of the city of Columbia. Like
Yeah,
how
the
did
level designs.
oh man, like that's the thing that really got me. Like when the beginning of the game, you know, you go up the lighthouse, you shot up into the sky, and then like you see the city for the first time.
Yeah,
And that is a moment in that game that has stuck with me for so long because that was such an amazing reveal. Like, I want to say it's better than the reveal in the original BioShock for like when you went to Rapture. Like, oh
Yeah.
wow, this is an underwater city, but it's still kind of dark and dreary. So you're like, wow, this is amazing, but you know, it's not a big shock value. But here, like you're like where it's raining, it was like, you know, you saw a dead body, and then you see
Yeah.
this beautiful, glowing city in the sky, and that is like, I just love the design of the city, how this I know some people had issues with the skyhook. I know one of my professors who does like level design stuff, she didn't like it's like it just seems like kind of impractical. I'm like, no, I think it works for me. Like
Yeah.
like to move
Yeah.
around on like something like that, especially if you're like patrolling like a cop or something, it made sense. But I just
Yeah.
love the design of the city. Like you,
It's very very nice.
Oh,
well,
God,
and
so good.
it's not quite like it is a realistic 3D, but I think they get away with it too because like the texture detail is so nice.
oh yeah.
Like it does look very stylized for like a kind of, you know, quote unquote realistic looking game.
Yeah.
So because it's kind of like a you know, it's very much like the original. Like it has its own like cool unique design to it. It's not quite trying to be like, you know,
Everything else.
ultra realistic. Yeah, there is some stylization to it with and again everything like the city itself, as you were saying, like is designed like really impressively. Like it doesn't ever feel like anything's just there like just to be there.
Yeah.
You know, like everything has a purpose and everything is like there to represent what kind of place it is. You know.
Oh yeah.
Which is
definitely.
Very impressive. When I get my computer back in a couple days, my new one, I'm definitely gonna. I never like got that far into the game, but I think I'm gonna try to replay it with like, you know, top-notch graphics on.
Oh
just to
yeah,
see
I
what it
think
looks
I
like.
need to replay again because the last time I played was on my PlayStation 3, and I beat that. When I beat that game, it was right after finals for like in high school. Like,
Yeah.
see, when did this game come out? Because I got it fairly recently after it came out, 2013. So it was
Yeah.
like my
Okay.
junior year. So finished up exams, I came home, I sat down and I played that game nonstop till I reached the end, and I just sat there for another hour to absorb the
Yeah.
ending.
Contemplating life, yeah.
And I just
That was quite the moment.
love this game so much, and I love the characters. Like I love the design of Booker. I love the design of Elizabeth, like her two different outfits.
Yeah.
The design of the Vigors, right? Yeah, Vigors and Infinite, and it's
Plasmids.
yeah. I have to sometimes I mix them up, which I feel really bad about. But like
Yeah.
the design of like how like when the bottle that it's in, like to give you an
Yeah.
idea, and then it's like here's our little like short presentation on how to use it. Like I love that, and then like how it affects you when you're using it. Like
Yeah.
how it affects your hands and all that, and it's like little details like that that really sold me. And also Songbird, the design of
Songbird is
Songbird
great.
was incredible. because he's a terrifying being in this game, this huge hulking bird creature of death.
Yeah.
And like the look of him is so terrifying, and it definitely, like, that's what you're supposed, when you see it, you're supposed to be like, yeah, no, we're running now. We're running really fast now. And this game, like, with the symbolism, with like all the patriotism or extreme patriotism, and like the whole, like, with white supremacy in this, like, it's like you can see it within the city, and you really get a feel of like what people are like here. But at first you're like, oh man, it's like, it's beautiful and golden, but the deeper you go into it, they change the design to fit, like, oh man, no, this is real dark, and it's getting darker, which I love. It's like a level kind of like, it's not horror per se, but like in a way horror. Like the original BioShock is all dark, so you're like, you're terrified from the get-go. In this one,
there's a lot of jump scares in the first one, for sure.
You get
it's
more
all jump scares.
Yeah. And then with this one, you get more scared as you go along.
Yeah.
Because you start realizing more about this world, and you're like, this is screwed up. This is real screwed up. And the art really, like, reflects that realization that you're having. And all the, like, the enemies you fight, like the bigger one, like the handyman. God, I love the design of the handyman.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, they have some incredible designs for that game, for sure. Real work of art that needs to be replayed very soon, hopefully.
Oh yeah, I think I might do that soon as well, because it's been far too long. And also, like, the posters in the game that they have around, like, for propaganda, like, you shall know the false shepherd by his mark. Like, those propaganda signs fit this world, like, this time period that we're going for. Like, everything fits together really nicely, and it's certainly a beautiful game that has its art flaws with, you know, hands being the size of heads, but and weird looking children. But if you ignore those bits and look at the rest of the game, it's drop dead gorgeous, and it really, really is in a league of its own, in my opinion. And also Sky Cities are cool.
Yeah, I love those. Yeah, great game. All right. So for my number 4, I think we're still on. I'm going to go with also a 3D game, Darksiders 2, made by THQ, which I think went bankrupt afterwards, unfortunately, but got picked up again, because there is going to be a Darksiders 3, which is really cool, even though people are mad because I think it's Strife. It's either, I think it's Fury, actually, and she's a girl, you know, the fourth minute of
Right,
Apocalypse.
yeah.
Yeah, and people are like, oh no, she's a girl, which is like, come on, guys, like, it's going to be good. Like, it's Darksiders. Anyway, but the second game I have for Wii U. I think it originally came out for PS3 and Xbox, because it's a port, obviously, for the Wii U. And what I really like about Darksiders 2 is that it is very, like, bump map, specular map, heavy 3D game, kind of like Skyrim.
Yeah.
But the design and the presentation of that game are just incredible. It opens up with, they have this guy called the Crow Father, who's like the keeper of time, kind of.
Okay.
And he has this great, like, he has this perfect narrator voice, because he's like, you know, the Chard Council once awoken the 3 riders, and he kind of explains, like, where the riders came from, and, like, who they are and what they did, and it's, like, one of the best narrations I've ever heard in a game, because it's, like, it's gritty, it's, like, it keeps you invested, and then, the game opens up where, like, you're riding your own horse as Death, like, through this, like, icy, like, you know, mountainous, like, cavern, and then, like, the music is, like, swelling, and, like, you just start riding your horse up to it, and what's really great about it is everything is, like, designed, like, it's got this really, like, organic, carven feeling to it, like, all the weapons have, like, unique designs on them, and, like, everything is, like, the first part of the level, you go to this place called the Maker's Forge, which are pretty much, like, they're pretty much, like, gods, they, like, you know, they shape the world, and it's a very, like, Celtic, like, Norse-inspired, like, world, and all the makers talk with, like, really, like, fun, like, Irish accents. Like, there's one who's like, you know, welcome, Rada, to the Maker's Forge, here we craft the like, the game just, like, feels, like, really, like, it's just fun to watch all these characters talk in this, like, old kind of, like, you know, Nordic kind of, you know, Celtic like style to them, and everyone is like, all the makers are designed with like these really cool garments, and they have like really heavy armor. And the world is really like, and this is just the first world. The rest of the game unfortunately gets a little like it's not as well designed. Like there's like a land of the dead, which is kind of like muted colors, but just the beginning of the game is like this lush like forestry with all this like carven stone. And they have like these colossi that are built from stone. And they like the way the characters talk, like they just have that very like mystic kind of cool sounding voice where they're like, like there's one quote that they say, it's like, life weighs heavy on us all, not even stone can bear its burden, like talking about like the colossi thing they built.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's just so cool because like they use like water from the mountains and like fire. They calls it like everything like has a name. It's like the tears of the mountain and like the wake fire, like everything just like is really like like it feels like they put a lot of soul into all like the design and stuff, like nothing feels like it's just there for like just to have it done.
Yeah,
like every like bit of it looks like just really, really well designed. And when you first get to the Maker's Forge, like there's like these carvings in the mountain. And it's interesting because I just picked up this game randomly because it was cheap on the Wii U, and I was just blown away. But yeah, by the just the design style, like it certainly doesn't hold up as well compared to some of the other HD games nowadays, of course. But again, it's just a very well designed game, and you really get a sense of like just like the environment and the design of all like the characters, and some of the enemies are kind of like forgettable. Like it's like a beat 'em up in the end of the day. You get like your light attacks, your heavy attacks kind of thing, and it's a dungeon crawler kind of like Zelda style, but it's still a very like I've it's one of the few games I've beaten. Not that I haven't beaten like a whole
You can say you haven't beaten a lot of games. I totally understand.
Yeah, well, yeah, I've definitely beaten, or I definitely haven't beaten as many games as I've beaten.
As you played?
As I played, yeah. I don't beat a lot of games just because, I have sometimes I have a low attention span compared to when I was younger for games, which is why it's kind of like a testament to like how good of a game it was in terms of like keeping my interest, because like it probably took around like I think 25 hours the first time. Yeah, it's a pretty long game, and that was like not really knowing what to do. But the only issue with it is it's kind of like it has that like very like annoying rule of thirds kind of aspect to like collecting things, because it's always like you go to the Land of the Dead and it's like you need to revive this guy, but you need to get 3 like orbs, and you do that. It's like, all right, now I need you to like get 3 of these to like the game is very kind of like every purpose is unlocked or by like you need to get 3 of these and 3 of these, kind of like Zelda style.
That's not fun.
Yeah, but yeah, so just to wrap that one up, just a very, very well designed game in terms of like what you can do with 3D and like bump maps and making things kind of like making a land that looks like it was like carven by people kind of.
Cool.
Yeah, it's just a very fun, very cool design game that I still pick up every now and then to play, and yeah, definitely one of my favorites in terms of like opening narration and like story building, as well as like design, I guess, in general.
Yeah.
So yeah, Darksiders 2, number 4 for sure.
Okay, so for my number 5, I think I'm gonna go with Oxenfree.
Oh yeah.
Oxenfree is a great game.
Yeah, I only played like an hour of it, but from what I played, it did look really cool.
I love this game because what's great about the art style of it is that the backgrounds are entirely 2D and the characters are 3D.
Yeah.
Which I find really unique, and it works for this just because the characters are very small, because you're like more looking at the area and it's very much about the interactions. But I just love the design of like, okay, this island that you're on, like, okay, here's the little beginning area, and each area feels unique, but it all fits together. Like you can imagine like, oh yeah, if this was laid out like in a 3D area, I can kind of pick out like where I was in this area. And I just I love the little details in it, like when you pull up the map for the game, the map looks like a tourist map. Like you like hit the front desk, you grab the map. I love that just because it makes it feel more like when you're playing as Alex, like you're actually like pulling out a real map instead of like here's a perfectly detailed map of this area. No, it's going to be like whatever you had on hand, and the fact that like when you write your objectives down, like when you have you like write it in a pen in the corner, and when you finish it you cross it out. And I like that. It's like a little detail like that. I just love the design of the world and the characters, and also the ghost. Let's just call them ghosts to make it easier, that are on this island, and like their interactions with you, and then how like when they will show up or how they show up is like really creepy. Or sometimes when you're playing, all of a sudden like your screen will flash a couple of different images to you, and like at first you're like, what was that? But then when you start thinking about it more, it starts like, oh wait, and you can start making connections with everything.
Yeah.
And I just think
for sure.
that it was just a really cool thing that they did to kind of make this world feel very stylized, but also feel very connected. And the art style, like this, everything, like the characters, despite being 3D, they fit within the 2D background. Like they made sure to keep that styling up. Like I didn't know that they were 3D models in the background. Like I thought they were both 2D for the longest time. Not until I watched an interview with like the artist be like, oh yeah, no, the characters are 3D and the background's 2D. I'm like, what? I didn't even realize that. So like it's like one of those moments where the characters in the background does actually really work together, because again, like a lot of times they just don't feel right. Like Ni no Kuni is that one that definitely they brought up earlier. Yeah. Like they feel like they're from two different games.
Yeah, the world map does not look anything like them. It's a little jarring sometimes, for sure.
Or especially when you're going from like a cut scene and then you go into the game and you're like, oh right, this is what this looks like now. But like this is just, everything feels really nicely connected. Like the design of the map is nice, and also the fact that like when you take pictures at certain places, like they're like little Polaroids, and I love that. It's just like it really feels kind of like a teen like supernatural movie where like in the 80s. It just feels right, despite the fact that it was modern day because they all had cell phones, but still like everything just kind of felt right. And I follow the artist on Instagram and like Twitter, and I just go like, how can I be like you? Because your environments are drop dead gorgeous. I just want like to take screenshots of all of them and hang them up as like fine art.
Yeah, they're really great.
That's definitely my number 5, because I love that game so much. It means so much to me.
All right. So for my number 5, I'm gonna try to keep the 2D style. Is Ori and the Blind Forest, which is a game I played, I think I got maybe 1 or 2 years ago, and that game's opening, like, made me cry. Like, it was so good. Just seeing that, like, I'm trying to remember, it was like a, it's not like a, it's like some, like that, whatever that large creature is, just taking care of Ori and then just dying in the first opening. Like, the way the music builds and, like, just... I don't understand like how they get that level of detail in the environments. Like if you just see that first opening scene, it's like the tree in the forest with like the dark like background and the lighting. It's just like, it's like background design is just, it's incredible.
Oh yeah.
Like it's one of the best looking games I've seen. And what's even better is that they're gonna have there's another one coming out.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you saw the trailer for it.
Oh yeah, I
so
did.
Good. Yeah, it looks so good. I cannot wait to play like a super HD version of that game. And the only thing about Ori is, though, that it's not, like... It's not, I wouldn't say it's an easy game by any means, for sure.
Right.
But it's also not exceedingly difficult. But it is kind of frustrating at times because it's got kind of, like, kind kind of floaty controls to it.
Ooh.
Granted, I was playing on a keyboard when I first got it, so maybe it changes a bit.
Right.
However, I have heard people say stuff about it because it's not the most exciting platformer, despite its beautiful design, because your basic attack is like you have like these 3 orbs where when you click, they kind of just like throw themselves at enemies. And apparently it isn't until you get this ability that lets you kind of like slingshot off of enemies where the game starts getting like really, really like exciting and well designed.
Right.
So that's the only unfortunate part is I definitely plan to like play it again and try to finish it. But despite its like beautiful design, I think it's not really like a platformer for everyone.
Yeah.
It also kind of reminds me of, I'm gonna do like a little shout out to it's a game called Dusk, an Elysian Trail, it's called.
Okay.
If you've ever heard of that. And it's a similar 2D platformer with kind of a hand-drawn art style, which looks really, really nice. But the thing about Dusk is it was all made by one guy, like Toby Fox style, and it looks really, really nice. And it's a really well-designed, fun game, which has a very, like, like, easier, like, learning curve, I should say, up to it. And it's kind of very similar in terms of art style. Maybe not as, like, detailed as Ori, obviously, with a team on that. But both of those games, like, have a very cool, like, hand-painted style that's a little different from Rayman Legends, but, like, still looks, like, really, really nice. And what I like about Dusk, for example, is that unlike Fire Emblem, you know, when the characters talk, they just have the still of them, like the highly detailed, like, still. Like, oh, I'm this character. They actually animate them, which is really cool. Yeah. And again, by one dude is very impressive, so.
That's incredible.
I'm gonna say Dusk/Ori is my number 5, I guess we're on.
Yeah.
For hand-painted look, so. Yeah, both those games look very, very nice, and have very nice music, too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So for number 6 for me, I'm going to talk about a game that's kind of a little odd. It's called Human Resource Machine. It's from the people who made Little Inferno, and I think what is it called?
Oh, I've heard of Little Inferno. I think that's the one everyone's been playing like weeks ago or something.
Yeah, so Human Resource Machine is a game where basically is a puzzle game where you're programming. So you're working in a company and you're working your way up, and you have different tasks that you need like handle. So you have like simple like programming like puzzles to do, and it is a uniquely designed game where like the characters, like if you know Little Inferno, you know how like it's the same art style, and this company only has 3 people in it, so they go for like all their games to have a very similar art style to it. And it's just interesting to have like a game where it's focusing on the programming puzzles to it, because you have on the side where it's like you have like a little like it's almost like a clipboard almost, where you're like writing out not writing out, but you're dragging and dropping like commands on how to do things and how to accomplish the goal. And the main menu, or not the main menu, the level select menu looks like an elevator, like buttons where you're pressing to go up to the next level of the company. So the further you're going, like the higher up you are in this company. So it's a very unique and weird looking game, but I love it so much because I love Little Inferno. And God, what was the other game that they made? Oh, it wasn't World of Goo. Yes, it was World of Goo. I'm fairly certain they were also worked on World of Goo, which if you've ever played that game.
Yeah, I played that. It was good.
I love that general style of the game, or their art style in general. So they're weird and also kind of have like a secondary message within the game, but they keep the characters very simple, kind of odd looking, and like so when you look at a character, you're kind of like it's easier to see yourself in them because they're all cartoony and silly looking. So it's a weird one. It's I just got it on my phone, but you can also get it on the Switch and Steam, and it's one of my favorite games. I love it so much, just because it's a weird puzzle game that really makes me think and have to start writing down real code for it. But it just keeps it has a very unique style to it that it kind of draws you in. If you know like Little Inferno, you'll see the art style and be like, oh, I know this game. Like, I think I know this game. And you'll feel familiarity because they're both like deep within the story of the game or the implied story of the game. They have a way bigger message in it.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very cool. Sounds pretty fun. Alright, that it for that one?
Oh yeah, it's frustrating as hell too, so highly recommend it.
Yeah. Alright, number 6 for me, I'm gonna say, let's see. Mario Galaxy. I'm gonna go with that one.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. Mario Galaxy, it's crazy to think that the game is 10 years old because it came out in 2007.
Oh my god.
So, yeah, I was probably in maybe a sophomore? Is that how that works? I'm trying to think. 2007.
2000.
Wait, that was 10 years ago. We were, like 11, 12 almost. Yeah, so that's an old game. And I've been a fan of Nintendo games for a while.
Yeah.
Well, since I got a Wii. But I played, like, the old Mario.
Yeah.
And, hold on 1 second. I'm kind of congested here. But, yeah, Mario Galaxy is a really nostalgic game for me because even though, like, the PlayStation was kind of, like, my, as a kid thing, Mario Galaxy was, like, one of the games that, like, really just made me go, like, wow, games are, like, amazing. Because, there's, like, a certain technique they use to, like, make the world, like, feel very vibrant. I can't remember what it is. I think Mario kind of has, like, he has, like, a very unique shader on him, his character model at all times, to kind of make him stick out. And the texture detail is actually very surprisingly good for a 480p Wii game. If you zoom in, like, the look feature in the game, the textures actually hold up and don't really pixelate, which is kind of impressive. But the game has a very, like, vibrant, like, because it's in space, like, it just has that very, like very, vibrant, open feel to it.
Yeah.
And what's very impressive, too, is because all the levels are kind of, like, they're not, like, insanely big, but they are pretty, like, large in scale for a Wii game. And, like, everything is kind of, the draw distance is actually very impressive. And you can actually kind of, like, see pretty far. So sometimes you can even, like, see the star from where you are. And I always thought that was just a very cool, like, wow, like, this draw distance is, like, this game, like, feels very alive. And, like, all the enemies are very, like, cartoony and well animated. And the whole game just has a very, like, vibrant, like, fun look to it. The music is amazing, and it's, like, a very just nostalgic game from my childhood, even though it's only, like, 10 years ago, not, like, when I was a little kid. But, like, it's a game that, like, I always go back to just because, like, it has such a great presentation for it, and is, for good measure, one of the top-rated Wii games of all time. But, the sequel is also very good, and is probably objectively a better game.
Right.
But in terms of, like how I remember it, just the original Mario Galaxy just has, like, a really fun, like, that Nintendo, bright, vibrant art style, which I was gonna say Mario Kart 8 at first, but Mario Kart 8 is kind of, like, it's really just all lighting, whereas I think with, Mario Galaxies, they have some very impressive texture work, and I love the design of all the levels and how they, like, incorporate the, like, the gravity aspect, which I know some people can find a little disorienting.
Right.
But, there's, like, a video called, how did they do that in gaming or something like that, and it's actually really kind of interesting because, they showed how they kind of, like, made Mario, like, a walk around a planet, essentially. And I don't remember, like, the specific details, but basically they have to, like, reset the normals of all the faces of this, like, the planet, like, every time he steps, essentially.
What?
So, like, yeah, there's a lot of, like, serious calculation that the engine has to do, because, like, yeah, every time he steps forward on a different plane from that sphere, like, it basically has to say, like, alright, he is, like, still not gonna fall, like, it was just a complete burden to try to program all that. But they pulled it off really nicely, and I really love the art style of that game, because it's, again, one of my favorite games on the Wii, and it's a very nostalgic game in general. But, yeah, Mario Galaxy number 6, for sure. Great game.
Oh, I'm gonna keep with the Nintendo theme, but it's a little more modern of a game because I didn't really start playing games till much later, because like with the Wii. But even then, I didn't have a lot of games. So my next, was it 7?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My number
Yeah.
6. I don't know where we are. Is Splatoon.
Oh yeah, Splatoon.
Splatoon 1 and 2, because they objectively are the same game, but 1 is on the Switch. I just love the vibrance of this world. Like, here is a game where there's a shooting game, a competitive game, but you're not killing per se, mostly, but you're spreading ink everywhere, and it's not just like black or white, or it's vibrant neon colors that complement one another. And it's so refreshing to play a game that is like a competitive shooter that isn't like a very dark game. Like, Overwatch is very bright, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's a nice change of pace. I love the character designs. Like, I love the Squid Kids. Like, I just love how they're designed. I love the little, when they're in the fully squid mode. Like, and just like the layout of the maps. They're just, I mean, they are completely symmetrical, which is kind of weird. But because a lot of other games will not do that. They'll keep the levels to be kind of like asymmetrical. Just to add variety. But I just love the vibrance of this world, the character designs, like not just like the Squid Kids, but the other people that you meet, like the cat judge dude. He's super chubby and cuddly looking, and I love him. You have what is it? The original two hosts, Callie and Mari, and then you have the new one, Pearl and Marina. I love their designs. They're really cute and like fashionable.
Yeah.
And you also have like the shop owners too. I love the shop owners. They're adorable.
Oh yeah, the crab guy. Have you seen like the war going on pretty much between like the fandom between Pearl and Marina?
Yes.
How, like if you like Marina or you like Pearl, you're like pretty much the scum of the earth.
Oh yeah. Well, like Marina is basically the Beyonce of this world, and people will die for her.
Oh, absolutely.
But
she's like
it's weird.
She's like Suyu. She's like the frog girl from My Hero Academia. Like people are just like, I will die for this squid girl. I will protect her. Like literally every like Twitter person I follow is just like that. It's so
amazing.
Fun.
Yeah, I love the design of the characters in like the little city area where you can, like in the new one, they have like a little food truck guy that you get tickets when you do Salmon Run, which is also a new mode that gets you like, you get a bonus to your XP that you get, and also or a bonus to like how much coins you get.
Yeah.
And their newest mode, which is Salmon Run, which is only available at certain times, which pisses me off, but is a great mode.
People are pissed about that.
I'm so mad about that.
That's such a dumb idea. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I like how you can play, like, if you have your friends, like, if you're all together, you can play whenever, and that's pretty cool. But also, like, let me play online, because I don't have friends here. But, so with that, like, the design of the level is kind of weird, whereas, like, you're at, like, an abandoned ship, and, like, the water rises and sinks. And, like, the enemies you're fighting are, like, salmon, like, zombie salmons.
Yeah.
And, like, the bosses that you get, like, the big, the gold eggs that you need to collect. Mm-hmm. Like, they're all very unique and weird, and there's one that I hate where you have to throw your grenade into its little bin and explode it. But because those grenades take so much ink, you can't throw another one immediately after. You have to go in, and by that time, they usually shut it.
Yeah.
So, but all the enemies are uniquely designed, and they all go with a very similar feel of, like, they found trash, and they're going to use it as armor. And we're going to do it. It's like, one guy's literally, like, he made a tower of pots and pans, and he sits on top of it shooting you.
That's amazing.
And you shoot all of them out from under him. So it's really cool. Like, and then also some of the modes where it would be like all of a sudden like it will get foggy and dark, and that's when you know, oh god, this is going to get real hard. It's because the salmon just like Zerg rush you. They just charge hard and don't care. Yeah. So you like that's a really hard level, but like because of the lack of like visibility, and it makes it kind of not creepy because it's still like a game for children, but it still makes you paranoid, and then you'll die so many times during it. But I just love the design of Splatoon. Like, I wasn't sold at first. Like, honestly, when I first heard about the game, I was pretty like about it. But then I got it for the Wii U, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty fun, you know? But I hate that I can't play with other people easily because no one has a Wii U. And also, it's just, like, weird, and I can't, like, play with people in the same room. Like, you could, but you'll need to have, like, 2 Wii U's and 2 TVs, and that's dumb.
Right. And like they still don't have like a voice chat thing, right? Like that was a big thing. It's not.
Yeah, I mean you have
Discord or Skype.
Yeah, well you have the chat thing that they use, but it's garbage. But honestly, like I don't really care because for me, I understand why they made the voice chat decision they did because they didn't want like teenagers yelling racial slurs at children.
Yeah.
So like doing something where it's more connected with like, oh, you can only talk to your friends makes sense. So I understand the choices they made. They're weird, but I understand them. But overall, I really enjoyed the look of that game. It's pretty. It's the game itself, like some of the design choices they made are real dumb. Like usually I don't say that. Like I'm like I can understand why. Some of them are just really really dumb in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But overall, it's a good game, and I just I've grown to like the look of it. It wasn't a game that I saw, I'm like, this is a game I need. It is a game that I originally looked at like this is real dumb. Why would anyone play this? And like over time I'm like, oh, I get it now.
I get it.
And then I've gotten to like the art more and more. So yep, that's mine. Splatoon.
Yeah. I think we're still number 7. Let me see how many more I have.
I have 3 left.
3 left. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. I have 4 because the 10th one, obviously. Alright, so I'm gonna go with, let's see. Oh yeah, so for my number 7 or whatever we're on, I'm gonna go with Valkyria Chronicles.
Oh,
which is which is a really, really, really nicely designed game. Alright, so Valkyria Chronicles I got, I think maybe freshman year of college, and I played it for a bit. And I really liked it, and then I stopped playing because there was a really frustrating level where you have to face this giant tank. And I replayed it this summer, and I love this game, like, a lot. It has a very, like, the way I would describe the presentation is, like, it's a literal storybook that this person wrote. There's, like, so the game revolves around, you're, like, this, like, college researcher, like, 19-year-old kid in, this small town, and it takes place in like they call it Europa, so it's pretty much Europe, and pretty much like you're this tiny country, and there's this like huge country called like Gallia or whatever, or no, Gallia is the country you are, and then there's like this big like pretty much German-esque army who like is trying to wage war over this like resource called Ragnite, which like powers all like the machinery and stuff.
Okay.
And so basically you join this small militia, and the game is a turn-based strategy, but unlike Fire Emblem, you actually take control of your character in third person. So what makes it really cool is that like you have like 5 different classes. So there's like Scout, Sniper, Lancer, like the rocket guy. There's a medic there's engineer, and then there's like a machine gun class, and basically the whole point of the game is like every like match you're trying to gain control of some like vantage point,
right,
so that you can essentially win the round. And what makes it really cool is there's 5 like main characters that are part of the squad that all have like really good personalities and like just really like fun stories to follow. And then you have like 50 plus characters that you can put in your squad that each have their own like likes and dislikes and advantages with other characters. And the whole game has a very like nice hand painted style to it, it looks very much like a storybook. Like they kind of white out the edges to make it look like a page, because the whole thing is being told through this book that one of the characters, like this news lady, like writes as you're like doing all the missions.
Okay.
And you get so attached to these characters, and it just is a really like it's a very anime looking game.
Oh, yeah.
But it's also not like jarring 3D because like it has like a nice kind of hand painted texture look to it, so it looks more like a storybook rather than like jarring 3D. And what's really nice about it too is it has this great mechanic where if one of your allies gets it like quote unquote like runs out of health, they don't die immediately like in Fire Emblem.
Right.
What you can do is you can have another character get to them within like 5 turns or whatever, and if you do that in time, a medic will rescue them and they'll just be retreated. So like they don't die permanently unless you like leave them for too long, which I really appreciate. So you don't have to like basically, you know, save scum every turn, unless you want to for some of the hard missions to like keep everyone alive. And it's just a very like fun, well designed game because like you can have like certain strategies, and what's nice too is even if you have like 10 characters who are like down, if you win the match, like they all like survive, so like you don't have to like leave them behind. So a lot of times like you like barely win by the skin of your teeth, which is like the best feeling because like, you know, all your men are down and like you just send that one soldier to like reclaim something. And all the characters are voice acted too, which is really great. Yeah, so there's 50 plus characters. There's like there's like 10 main characters with cutscenes and stuff, but there's like 50 plus characters that have like their own like dialogue and things that they say when you play them, and it's just a very, very fun game, and I definitely recommend it on Steam. It's just a really fun, nice looking game, and the presentation value is excellent. Like you feel like this nation is real.
Yeah.
And again, like it's a very highly rated game, and there's a couple others which are not as good, I think on the PS3 or something, and there was a new one that came out for PS4 that people hated because it was basically like Hyrule Warriors-esque. Yeah, but it's a really, really great game. It has really great presentation value, and I love the art style to it, and all the characters like are fun and like unique and have their own personalities, and you feel bad when one of them dies, unless like it's a character that you just don't like, and you're just like, whatever.
It happens.
Like, I think like one of them died because she was like just this prissy, like, you know, like I don't want to be here. My daddy's rich. You know, they kind of have like their own unique stories, and it's a very fun, like, exciting game to play, and I really like it. It's really good, and you should get it.
Yeah, I'll look
and I think
into
I totally did that too. Yeah. So yeah, Valkyria Chronicles number 7 or whatever.
Yes. Yeah. So,
I was just saying, I think I have 3 more on here. So yeah, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I have 3 more as well. So my next game is Enter the Gungeon.
Oh yeah.
Just because the theme is guns, and they kept with that theme very, very well throughout the art of the game. All the enemies are bullet related, or like, and the bosses are all gun related, and they're all puns. And I think just it was really cool having that connected theme within all of the art, which was nice, because when you change, like, Enter the Dungeon, you know, that's pretty standard, but Enter the Gungeon implies that you're going to talk a lot about guns in this.
Right.
So keeping out with the theme of like the enemies being all gun themed, and like some of the like art on the wall are gun themed. This was really cool. I love that game so much. I think I have 70 hours in that game.
Oh, wow.
I am not good at this game, like, at all. I'm the worst. But I love it so much just because, like, the art style, like, the intro to it, like, the intro screen is really pretty. And you just have these the characters you can play are pretty unique. And just running around dodging bullets. And it's the dungeon crawling roguelike bullet hell. And I love the design of, like, the rooms are all, I really like the rooms, like, individually, because every time you play, it's different. It randomly generates the dungeon, which is really fun to program. It's not fun to program. It's the worst. Actually, I've done it, but still. Like, it's different, and then you have other characters you meet within the dungeon who aren't, like, enemies. They are your, like, they're the person's like, hey, like I have some goods to sell. You want them? Or if you like rescue someone, like you find the key, you're able to rescue them, and they'll appear in like the main world where you start, like the main hub, and you can buy things that will change your gameplay for a while. Like, so you'll get more like health, or like you're more likely to find this, that, or the other thing, which is really nice. And I love the feeling of this game. I love playing it. It's fun, and like. Is it like a lot of people were like, oh, like Pixel was kind of like, I'm a little sick of it because everyone's doing it. But this is a game that I think like, yeah, they use pixel art because, you know, that was probably an easier style for them to use for this. But then you're like, well, what if we just like really heavily themed everything to guns? And you're like, yes. And I think like theming is important. You want to make sure everything fits together properly, because you can just throw a whole bunch of things into your room and it doesn't make sense. But if you make everything gun themed, then you're like, yep, this is a gun game, all right. So I just like that one a lot. And the enemies, like the bosses, are really unique, and I hate them all.
Yeah.
Except for the first level ones, like, because those, like, I've got to the point where those don't bother me. It's the second level ones that I just cannot do. And I have 70 hours in this game. I am not good at this game. Because most people are like, oh, yeah, no, by now I am pretty good at this. I'm like, I have 70 hours into this game. And also, it's coming out for the Nintendo Switch, so I'm going to buy it again.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of these games are these, like, indie games are returning to Switch, which is nice.
Thank God.
Because I know for a lot of people, it's a reason to actually, like, start playing your Switch when you're done with Zelda. Because until they release, like, Mario Odyssey, I know a lot of people are kind of holding off at the moment, including me. But for me, what's going to sell it is Dragon Quest XI has been confirmed in 2018 at some point. So
oh, cool.
That'll be a keeper for me, because I love Dragon Quest, and that's actually my next one on the list.
Perfect segue.
Yeah. Are you done with yours?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, I am.
Yeah. Yeah, so my next one is Dragon Quest VIII for the PlayStation 2. And, this game is also a game. I picked up a lot of these games in high school, ironically, but what I love about Dragon Quest VIII is, for some reason, which I cannot put my finger on, I consider it my favorite, if not like one of my top favorite games of all time, just because it's a super long game and I've played it through like 4 different times. Like, it's like over 100 hours if you do like all the side quests and stuff. And
wow.
I've done at least like, I haven't finished every playthrough, but I've replayed it a lot. But what I love about it is that it has this really, like, it's one of the best looking games, if not the best. I'm just going to say it's the best of the PS2 genre. Because not only is the world, like, enormous, but it also has, like, it's a cel-shaded game, but it's not quite like Zelda. Like, the 2 colors they choose are not, like, muted.
Right.
Like, it's kind of like, there's like a nice gradient to everything. And what I love is all the faces on the characters are hand drawn. So like they all have like, every NPC has like a really cool design, and they have like really fun facial expressions when they're talking. And the North America release had an English voice cast for all the characters, which do a great job. And everyone talks with like an English like Cockney accent. And it's so great. And they just had a 3DS release that was pretty good too. But what I love too is the backgrounds, like the environments, like they're textured to like fit the design of the characters too. Like everything seems like it belongs. And it's almost like playing like a Studio Ghibli game, like in the PS2 era, because I just love the design of all like the environments. And all the enemies are like really well animated, and like they all have that cartoony the design is all done by Akira Toriyama, you know, Dragon Ball.
Yeah, which is pretty obvious when you look at all the characters.
You can tell from the characters. It's very Krillin-esque looking characters in like Dragon Quest IX, for example, and things like that. But yeah, and everything is like really well animated in terms of like monster design and like how they move, and like there's just so many enemies that are all like from the old games, and it's a very just like great fun adventure game, even though the story is very simple. Like, you know, you're trying to return your king back to the way he was, and you're chasing this like evil magician. Like, it's just all the characters you meet, like everyone's like, all the important characters have voice actors, which is really impressive.
Oh, wow.
Like, every cutscene is done. Yeah, and this game is like 100 hours long, so like they did a fantastic job.
Dang.
And Yeah, and the soundtrack is orchestrated, and it's like, it's beautiful and sounds so nice, and like it's fun too because it's one of those games that Al and I can really relate to because
Oh, yeah.
we both played Dragon Quest and like we know like the genre and just like it's just a really fun game and it's one of my favorite of all time. I crack it open at least like every couple months just to replay it again and in terms of art direction like you can't beat like Akira Toriyama for a PS2 game style like it's
Oh
just
yeah.
it's awesome. Great game. Lots of fun. One of my favorites of all time for sure. Yeah. So number 9, I guess we're on now.
Yeah.
Blade.
And my choice for number 9 is a game that hasn't come out yet, but I've heard enough about it to make me go, yeah, no, this is gonna be a fantastic game, just because of the art style, and that is Cuphead.
Oh yes.
I had to include it because it's literally the best looking game I've seen in a long time, just because of the styling and also the fact that the artists for it weren't just like, oh, we're just going to kind of half-ass it, we're going to just sort of like do it. No, they like fully committed to like the original like way to do it, like to make the animations for it. And I want to say like if I ever got to meet them, I would be like, I'll buy you all a meal and a drink because y'all clearly need it because you're crazy.
Yeah.
But in the best way possible because they've been working on it for I know for a fact the past 3 years.
Oh wow.
And and like so and the artists like the people working on it have had to sell their houses to be able to like finance working on this game.
Oh wow. That's insane.
Yeah. So this game, when I look at it, like it instantly induces the feeling of those old cartoons, and like I like watching old cartoons. I know my my one professor Sten, shout out to Sten because he is the man. He would show us different like shorts and whatnot. So I feel like this is a game that if I told him about it, he would be like, "Oh my god!" and show everyone it. Just because the styling is beautiful. Like, I love the character design of Cuphead. Like, if you do 2-player, Cuphead and Mughead, and your bros.
Wait, is it local or is it local multiplayer?
I think it's probably local multiplayer, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to buy it regardless.
Oh yeah. I have it bookmarked or on the shopping wish whatever it's called
Good.
as well.
Yeah, you're probably going to buy. I'm going to make Courtney buy it because she's like, oh man, I love the look of this game because she sent me the article about like how they had to sell their house. Like
yeah.
And it's like, oh my god. And she's like, I might buy it. I'm like, Courtney, you have to buy it. We need to support. We need to support these poor people. And she's like, you're right. And like,
absolutely.
so
even if it was like $40, I'd still buy it.
If it was $60, I would buy it.
Yeah.
Like without a doubt, I would be like, okay, and just throw them money and be like, and here's a meal. Please take it.
Absolutely.
Like, I just like the character designs are fantastic. They really have that feeling of those old cartoons. The backgrounds, oh my god, I'm in love. Like every time I think about this game or I look at it too long, I go like a single tear runs down my cheek, being like, I don't think I'll ever be able to make something this beautiful.
Oh yeah.
But I can always like try to make something as great as this because it's like it's like a beat 'em up. Like I think like some kind of like. Yeah, I think it's like a beat 'em up, and like you have like bosses where they might shoot, so you have to dodge them. So, and I'm so excited for this game.
Yeah. Oh god, I hope it doesn't come out in a weekday. I hope it's like a weekend or something.
It comes out the September 29th, which is a Friday.
Oh yes.
So awesome. Jack, that weekend we both buy a copy of the game and we play it together. We don't stop.
Yeah, I agree.
We order food, and we just keep going.
Hours.
It's like if anyone tries to stop us, they're going to die.
Yep, they say no. Yeah, Cuphead's gonna be awesome.
Like
I'm so excited.
And also like I have a feeling like I know one website, I forget what it's called. I think 8-Bit. They do a lot of game soundtracks as vinyl records, and I know they're doing a Cuphead one.
Oh, awesome. Oh, I'm sure the soundtrack's like jazzy. I'm guessing,
oh, it's going to be like I think they're one full like whole ham with the whole like old cartoon feel. So it's going to be like I'm very excited for it, and this is a game where the art style really stuck out because this is unique. This is something we haven't really seen before. Because everyone else is like, they're going to do like maybe like more anime style for their cartoony or like modern cartoon art. Here's people who like, what if we just did it like old school art, but legitimately did it like old school? And they're like, yeah, let's do this. And they're crazy, and I love them for it. So I'm very excited for this, and that's like definitely like my number 2 choice. And once I play the game, it probably will move up to number 1 because I want to give it a little bit of like room to improve.
Oh,
because I haven't seen everything yet, so it has a little room to move up for later on. But I'm very excited for this game, and literally the art is perfect in my opinion. And if I ever have a chance to meet them, like I will shake all their hands and shed a single tear, being like, "You guys are crazy. Thank you for this gift."
All right. Let's see. So number 9 for me. Let's do. Yeah, I'll save that one for the end. All right. So number 9 for me is going to be Metroid Prime for the GameCube. Yeah.
Very nice.
So I did not have a GameCube growing up. I played it
First
a lot of games
console.
on the GameCube. Yeah, with some of my friends, and this is a game like I picked up later too. And what's interesting about Metroid Prime is at first I didn't really enjoy it that much because it's a 3D like Metroidvania, which is kind of a genre now,
Yeah.
where it's a bunch of interconnected rooms and you have to solve puzzles and whatnot. And at first I didn't get this game. Like in terms of like I got a certain point in it and I was like it's kind of cool, I guess. And I don't remember what the transition point, but like at some point I just fell in love with this game's design because for one, it holds up immensely well for a GameCube game and was one of the best transitions into 3D by this little tiny studio called Retro Studios.
Okay.
Which it's basically this studio in Texas, but for some reason Nintendo like authorized to make a new Metroid game, which is insane to think about because like Metroid was like Super Metroid was one of their most popular titles on SNES.
Right.
And since then they've made both Donkey Kong Country games, like the Return and Tropical Freeze,
nice.
which are both also very good games.
Oh yeah.
But Metroid Prime is one of the most impressive games of its genre because not only does it look immensely good, but like all the enemies are like extremely, or all the like they're enemies, but they're more like obstacles because they're living on the planet and they're all part of like the environment and stuff. And what's amazing about it is like every enemy you can scan and has a little like log entry. Well, it'll bring up like their anatomy and like what their like weaknesses and like just like how they function in the world. Like they went crazy with the flavor text, but it all feels like genuine and real.
Oh, cool.
Like every single enemy you find, and the game looks amazing. Even by today's standards, like I said before. But what's most impressive is like just the effects they were able to get. Like when you step into like a steam vent, like you actually get like condensation on your visor.
Oh wow!
And like when you get sprayed by like alien goop or whatever, like you actually get it on your visor and it has to like kind of drip away, and it's insane because like, it's like literally one of the best 3D transitions of like a 2D game I've ever seen, and it has such a great design to it, and even though it's like a early GameCube 3D, like it just has like such a unique feel, and all the music is like super atmospheric and like really like what's the word, just really unique. Like it captures the atmosphere of every level perfectly, and every enemy you face like feels like they're part of the environment. And it's probably my favorite like action adventure game I've ever played. And because it's a first person shooter, but kind of, but like it's more about like platforming. And the GameCube actually works really well for control, surprisingly, because you can like lock on with one button and kind of like strafe, like to keep yourself like kind of oriented with the GameCube's like control layout, But yeah, it's a really amazing game, and I've beaten it like a couple times probably. And I don't know if you were watching Nintendo's E3 when they showed the thing for like the fourth game, like Federation or whatever.
Yeah, just the title.
4. Yeah, just the title card, which people were just like, yep, they won 8-3. Like, hands down. Because people, like, this game is like a cult classic and is really highly rated. And all it took was like, I was one of the people who, like, I heard that, like, opening, like, it's like a very like weird kind of like creepy technical music,
Right.
and everyone was just like, no, it can't be, and all of a sudden they just flash Metroid Prime 4 in the making,
And then everyone
people were just like-
screamed.
yeah, and people were just like, that's it, they've won E3, that's all they had to do was just show a title card, no gameplay, no nothing, just as long as it's in development. Like, yeah, Metroid Prime is just
I was gonna say, to be fair,
it's crazy. Yeah.
to be fair, a lot of other studios really didn't show like
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
or like really stand out. And with Nintendo's recent history with games, it's been pretty like on point with
Yeah.
the games, and they don't really show anything till they're like feel really confident in what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, like, the fact that they're, like, they showed a title card means they're already feeling pretty good about what they have so far. Granted, you probably won't see any gameplay for a while or till, like a few months before it comes out, just because they want to make sure it looks as good as it can before, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
giving it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and then one last thing I want to say about Metroid Prime on move on is like, yeah, it's a very like nice like fright aspect to it, where it's just like nothing ever tries to jump out and scare you. There are a few moments that do that, but like it's a game where like the fear factor stems like from your own experience, and not the game like trying to be like, you should be scared of this and we're gonna
Right.
scare you, which is a lot of fun too, because I used to play it like I remember one time I played it like at night by myself, and I was just like, ooh, this is not a good idea, but I
Good
like
job.
beat the whole thing in one night, because it's like a quick like 8-hour adventure.
Okay.
If you like scan everything, like you get 100% like concept art and stuff, which is also really cool.
Okay.
But yeah, I love the scanning aspect too, because like every like enemy is written with like well designed text, and like they show the anatomy and all that cool stuff.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah, it's a game that really sticks out in terms of like art direction and style, and it's one of my favorite like sci-fi-esque games I can think about. So yeah, that was number 9, Metroid Prime.
Nice. My number 10 is the only game I could truly choose to be number 10 because of the overall experience it gave me, and that is Night in the Woods. This game means so much to me, and I love it very much. The art style, making all the characters like animals, but also having animals in the world, which is kind of weird. But I love the character designs. It's again with the whole like, if you just had the outline of these characters, you would be able to recognize who they are,
Yeah.
which is really nice. Like, you can even tell the difference between like if you had the main character May and like her parents, like you can tell the difference between her and parents, not just because she's tiny and short, but also the fact that she's like a cutout in her ear that makes her like stand out against her parents. And the fact that it's like this game is very much an experience of like if you've lived in a small town, you can relate to like the environment a little more. Like, oh, you see the same people every day, they're doing the same thing every day. Like, you can relate to that. And also these characters are meant to kind of like, you're supposed to put yourself in this very flawed character, May. And I truly see myself as this character. But then you have her friends who I also like, I can be like, oh, this character reminds me a lot of this character or this person I know. Or I can see myself a little bit in the other characters with like the things they say and the things they do. And a game like this, like when you're dealing with such like important messages as like mental health and also like growing up, it's very hard to like do a game like this in a realistic style, because that takes away the whole point of you putting yourself as these characters. Like, if you take away, like, if I were to play this game and they all looked like realistic, my experience would be completely different, and honestly this game probably wouldn't be as important of a game to me. Like, I would have felt more empathy towards these characters, be like, oh yeah, no, I get you. But instead, like, it was like I was these characters. I saw myself. I saw this cartoon cat face and I saw myself. And like So with that, it kind of using the style of like cartoon, like not cartoon, but like animals and like a very like almost. I want to say the characters almost look like they were made from paper, like.
Yeah.
And I mean that in a good way. I don't mean that as like, oh, they look like they're from South Park, which I hate South Park. So like, I want to say it looks like beautifully crafted characters and the world, like the city, there's like graffiti around, there's like trash, and like even though this is a very like is a two-dimensional game, so you can't really do a lot with like making the world feel lived in, like they do that with like May's room. You kind of get a feeling of her character, like who she is. Like you see like a guitar on the corner, so you kind of get that feeling like she knows guitar, and you learn a little more this, that, and the other thing about her within her room, but also like the just like the city itself feels like it's an old mining city, and it like I felt like, oh yeah, no, this feels like a real city, and it was until I realized that this is pretty much outside of like Pittsburgh that it's like takes place. Like for me, like it always felt like a real city, and then like someone's like, oh well, like the creator's like, oh well, we based it off of like a small town outside of Pittsburgh that one of the creators like she like where she grew up, like they kind of roughly based it off of like where she grew up, and I could immediately feel like it wasn't just like, oh well, here's another city that could exist or whatnot. Like to me, the moment I step foot, I'm like, I already understand the feeling of this city. Like I feel like I've already gotten into the shoes of May, and this is my story now, and I love that for it. And also like there are kind of like these, I mean, if you know anything about it, you know there are like dream sequence areas, and I just love the design and the atmosphere of it, because it's like, especially with the music with it, like it all embodies the experience of like you don't know what's going on, but you know you have a task that you need to accomplish. Like when you have a dream, like in a dream a lot of times it's like you're doing something, you don't know why you're doing it, but you know you have to do it.
Right.
And like in this game, like we have come to know, like, or in games in general, like we know that, oh, I'm right in front of these like little 4 like lamppost things, like with 4 little lights that are on, not on. So you know, like, oh, I need to go find them all. Like you don't know really why you need to go find them all. You just know you have to. So it kind of that whole like feeling of like when you're in a dream and you don't really have control over what you're doing. Like it kind of also embeds that into it. When you're on the computer, when you're messaging your friends, like it feels like you're actually on a computer, and that wallpaper is actually my wallpaper on my computer, and I love it. They have a game within the game, which is like a dungeon crawling thing called Demon Tower, which it has a completely different art style. It's all pixelated, and then like here's a game within the game that you can play. So it adds like another layer to this world where like you're truly embodying this character, because you're not only like just talking to her friends, but you're also playing a game she likes. You haven't played bass in a long time, but they throw a bass at you, like we're having band practice right now, so you're just trying to figure out. So like like this game focuses on making you feel like you're the character, and there's no other way that could have been done without this art style, in my opinion. So I love this game wholeheartedly. I haven't played it in a bit, but like I played it twice through.
Yeah.
That's how much I love this game. It's so good. The characters are fantastic. And if we could just have an episode on this Night in the Woods, it would be me talking for 2 hours about why this game is the best game of all time, in my opinion.
It's funny because right when you said the title of your game, your audio cut off for a second, so I was like trying to piece it together, but like once you said like animal characters, I was like, oh, it's Night in the Woods. Like I was able to like recognize what you're talking about,
because I talk about so
like,
much.
Well, that, and I've never played the game before, so like just from like seeing the images alone, like it's funny that you described it well enough that like I was able to piece together that before you said it.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. All right. So for my number 10, I was gonna say Overwatch, but then realized that we had that planned for an episode, which I really think should be an episode.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna hold out on that and replace it right now. So my number 10 is gonna be Stardew Valley, which
Okay,
is
okay.
yeah, fairly recent game. Within like 1 or 2 years, I think, or probably just 1 year ago. That is getting popular right now because there's a Switch
Again.
Has a Switch version come out? I don't know if it has.
Not
I
yet.
think it hasn't. Yeah, if there's supposed to be, apparently the Switch is gonna get the first multiplayer version, which is gonna be
Really?
awesome.
Oh, that's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
because
This game
yeah,
came
'cause
out on
it's-
my birthday a year ago.
oh really?
It came out February 26th, 2016. It came
Yeah,
out on
and
my
it-
birthday.
Yeah, it's got a couple of console releases, which is great, because it's a game that deserves the attention. And what makes Stardew Valley, I think, so enticing is it's like it takes like the best elements from like Harvest Moon and like Animal Crossing, and like it's all made by one guy. Like I have such appreciation for things that are made by one person because it's like
Because they're crazy.
yeah, well they're crazy and it's like dang everything like in this game is like his decision and his alone. Like that's insane. Like
Yeah.
the music, the art style and the characters. And it's a very, very nice looking game. It's got that great detailed pixel graphics.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned to a couple of you guys, like he actually finished the main game like within like a year, and then spent like 3 years just polishing everything to make it like fine tuned and awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And what makes the game so like enticing, I think, is like there's no real sense of purpose. Like in terms of like everything you do is really just like to get more money, so you
Right.
can like buy more things and make things efficient essentially. Like you can save up and you can get like a horse so you can like ride through town faster. Because
Yeah.
there's a time element obviously, where I think it's like a minute is like 10 minutes or something like that. And it's like a 24 or like it's like a 12. It's like a 6 to 12 p.m. cycle or 12 a.m. or whatever day cycle, and again, like it's like a really cool like pixel style, and like it has a really like nice lighting effect to everything.
Oh, yeah.
Everything just looks really nice, and the music is really atmospheric and wonderful, and also written by the guy, of course.
God bless them.
Yeah, and what makes it interesting too is like all the characters, like the NPCs, like because it's a small town, you really start to like get to know and relate to everyone, and they all have like their like the interesting thing is like they all have their own like schedules, so
Right.
like you can find them at different times of day and you can kind of memorize their patterns and stuff.
Okay.
But since the game is like it's season based, like when you get to the second like the next part of that season, like a year, like they will kind of say the same things. Like they have like events, like Halloween events and stuff. And when you talk to them the next year, they'll just say the same things they said,
Oh.
like obviously in the last Halloween event.
Right.
But they still have like their own dialogue, like that kind of repeats. But everyone has like kind of their own story. And what's interesting about the game too is you can kind of like Harvest Moon style, you can get to know characters and eventually marry them.
Right,
But the game
okay.
actually also lets you do same-sex marriage, which I don't think I've
So
ever
progressive.
seen. Yeah, I don't think I've ever like seen in a game like that before.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, which is really awesome for it to include that kind of option. And you can also have kids, so I don't know how that affects like your ability to do that. Because like the thing like you have to do is to get married you have to upgrade your house, which costs like a lot of like materials and stuff. So even I haven't gotten like the upgrade to the house where you can get kids, so I don't know like how that would work if you have the same sex, like maybe you just adopt or something.
Right.
But the game is still like just like I think it's my like second most played game, just because I kept playing it like every time I come home from like like my school day, like I just come home and play it for just like an hour or two, just kind of like unwind, because it's a very like you don't have to do anything immediately.
Right.
Like what's funny too is you get like quests from characters to be like bring me this, and I know like every game like does that, where it's like you have like an infinite amount of time to do it obviously, but I just find it so funny because some people are just like, hey, can you bring me like a lobster, I need it for a recipe, and you'll bring it to them like a year later in like the game time, and they're just like, oh thanks, like like not even like I was waiting for this for a year and stuff. So like the game makes you feel like everyone's kind of expecting things like within a time period,
Right.
Of how the game's clock runs. So it's just kind of funny when like you're always like late by a year for giving people the things they need, and they're just like, oh cool, thanks, like not like I was waiting for a while or anything.
Be passive about it.
Yeah, and what's really funny is so there's like the objective best girl in the game that everyone marries is like Abby. 'Cause
Right.
she likes video games and she's kind of like the occultic like weird creepy kind of like goth nerd girl.
Ah,
And
of course.
what's really funny too is there's actually like a glitch in the game that, or not really like a glitch, but like an error that the guy never fixed where when you can give people gifts and then they'll just be like that raises their like their friendship bar or whatever. And what's funny is if every character has like certain likes and dislikes, right? So
Right.
you can actually like a lot of the time you're looking it up like Minecraft wiki style.
Yeah.
But what's funny is Abigail's like favorite thing is like if you give her gemstones and stuff. And what's really funny is when you give it to her, she says like, "Oh, this looks delicious. I'll eat it right away." And it's just like, wait, what? So the whole joke is just like, yeah, she eats rocks because the guy just never bothered to fix it. So whenever you give her like a crystal, she's just like, "Oh boy, this looks so yummy," and you're just like, okay,
Please no.
Abby, you go for that, I guess, whatever. Yeah, so that's really funny, and yeah, Stardew Valley is just a really like awesome, relaxing, low key game. Great art, great music, and there's a lot to do too. Like once you really upgrade your farm, there's like a fishing mechanic. There's a mine you can go to. Every villager has like a purpose. Like there's a blacksmith for like
Right.
upgrading your like tools and stuff. And again, it's a very very addicting game. And there's a reason I think it's become so popular. And yeah, it's just a really fun design game. Like again, like I cannot believe one person spent 4 years just like making this. And the game is like it's like published by Chucklefish Games,
Oh yeah.
which makes some other games, but like the guy who made it has his own like he had like a blog for it essentially for every like update. And like it was just like, yeah, here's my diet, here's my station, here's what like I do every day. And yeah, it's crazy because you can also look up like what the game used to look like every like step of the way.
Oh,
And,
cool.
yeah, it really feels like a game that was made with a lot of love. And what's even more impressive is just like the amount of stuff in it. Like if you go to the wiki and just look up the fish you can catch, there's like at least like 40 different fish on this list.
Jesus.
Everything from like halibut to like a void salmon to like a lava eel, a red snapper, and there's also artifacts you can find and like
cool.
give to the museum. And like it's just a game that has so much going on for it. And again, like just thinking like, wow, one dude spent 4 years of his life making this game. It's just like,
That's crazy.
yeah, it's insane. So yeah, Stardew Valley. I don't know if like I'm not comparing it to like what I had for Overwatch, but like it's certainly a game that deserves the praise for its art direction because it is a very very nice looking game at the end of the day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
See, my issue with it has always been like I hear people who get like obsessively like addicted to it, and I'm just like, I don't have time for that. Not right now.
Like, I can't have that. Well, that's my worry on this because I bought Witcher 3 like a couple weeks ago.
Oh, jeez.
And I'm glad I don't have my computer because I had to send it in for repair.
Yeah.
But like I haven't gotten it back yet, and I'm kind of like draining that because I know like it's kind of a time sucker, which is why I never like went out and bought it because like those open world games, it's just like geez, like you can't really like it's hard to put down. So now that we have like 10 minutes, we can wrap up 2 hours nicely. So
Yeah.
what would you say is like the best looking game like out right now, just like graphically, just as like a choice of like the best next gen looking game that you're just like, wow, this game is like insane, how did they do that kind of thing?
I see. I mean, I honestly think like Overwatch because of like the styling of the characters, and then also I've seen the models without the textures on, like when they use like ZBrush to like
Oh
sculpt
yeah, I
it,
love watching those.
and
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my god, why, how, like what voodoo magic have you done? So like that's been a game that's really like kind of stuck with me for like the detail of the characters and like the animations, the skins. Like Overwatch has definitely been the game that's really like stuck out to me, because like I see like ads for games all the time. I watch like people play games on YouTube all the time, and still like Overwatch is one of those games that I still go like, wow, incredible. Like it really sticks out to me for like really like for graphics and like it's being stylized and like the skins, which is like when you texture it, you know, it's different textures, but also like you're adding some things, like you're giving Reaper a sombrero. Like
Yeah.
that's a entire other thing you need to like model.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's
Yeah.
definitely been one game that's really like popped out to me for like best looking game that's out right now. Have other games that haven't come out that I think are like very good, very very good, but don't know really much about them besides, you know, like the little trailers I've seen.
Yeah. Yeah, Overwatch is really interesting because, like, the way they optimize it is actually really impressive, too, because I, you know, played, when I first started, I played on, like, this, you know, Intel HD graphics card computer, right?
Yeah.
And the game actually still looks really, like, it looks pretty good, like,
Right.
even in the lowest resolution, because, like, they're, you know, like, hand-painted symbol textures. It was just a very nice, like, HDRI lighting scheme going on. And then I got my new computer and I played it, and oh my god, epic settings, like, the game looks completely different. Like, it doesn't even look like Overwatch anymore from what I was playing. It was just like, wow, this is like, this is how the game should be played. This is incredible. And what was really interesting is, I sent a screenshot to AJ, saying, like, look at this, like, this is what epic settings look like. And, like, the first thing he sent to me was just like, wait a minute, there's writing on that wall in that map? And I was like, yeah, what are you talking about? He's like, that writing isn't there for me on low settings. And I was like, interesting. Like, they actually hide textures for, like, the lower settings. Because, like, I always thought they just, like, they maybe just had, like, low-res texture maps for everything just to keep everything kind of, like, steady. But that's actually kind of interesting that they actually just remove some elements from, like, the detail on the wall and stuff. Because there's a lot of normal maps going on for a lot of the details and stuff. But I just found that really interesting that, like, they actually optimize it, so like it's not that like they just lower the resolution, it's like they actually take away things that like aren't quite necessary to get the game streamlined.
Right.
And the other thing I find really impressive is like the game is way more like polished and has a lot going on than League of Legends does. And I've only recently had a few like lag issues. And my computer, again, isn't very powerful, which is the other impressive thing is they have tight control on their servers. Because, like, sometimes when I was, like, playing, like, League and stuff, when I was into it, like, I had really bad connections, and everyone used to say, like, oh, it's, you know, it's a 6-player or 12-player multiplayer game, you know, like, don't give it so much flack, like, blah, blah, blah. But, like, I've never had that many connection issues on Overwatch, which is insane. Like, Blizzard has a tight control, like, over their servers, for sure.
Yeah.
It's very impressive how they're able to keep, like, the game steady. Even on, like, Total Mayhem and stuff, like, I could still handle everything fine, which is incredible. Like, the game could actually, like, not lag out a couple times. So I've been very, very impressed with that. Just so we don't talk about too much about Overwatch, I would say, for me, the best looking game, at least I've seen or played, is probably either Witcher 3 or Just Cause 3. Ironically, both the third versions. I'm going to say Just Cause 3 just because, like, the game looks really, really nice. And maybe it's not, like, the best looking game out there right now.
Right.
But it also has the largest map, like, so far of all games. I think we talked about that, like, 400 square miles.
Yeah.
And the game looks really, really, really nice. And it plays really well and flows really well. And, again, it's one of those games where it's like it's just a bunch of mindless action. Like you don't play it for the story. And this is similar. Just Cause 2 also looked really nice for its time too. But I'd say that is like when I was like playing on the PC. Like, I'm not gonna say it's like objectively better than Overwatch or anything, just because I don't want to take what you said.
Right.
It is a very, very nice looking game, and it's incredible to think like what like the NVIDIA graphics card can do nowadays.
Oh yeah.
Like it's like a world of difference. Like it'd be hard to go back to like, you know, playing stuff on this. Like I exclusively use this while I'm waiting for my computer for like Stardew Valley and stuff. I don't even try to like I still play Overwatch and stuff on it just because like I like to play it every night. But like it's like wow, it's just a world of difference seeing what like a PC can finally do. You know.
Oh yeah, I totally understand that. Once I got like a real computer.
Yeah, it's just like wow, it's like it's hard to imagine going back. And there's like nothing wrong with like console gaming, you know. Like I'm not gonna say like you have to be a PC elitist just because the graphics are objectively better, but like it is kind of a world of difference just to see what like Overwatch looks like on Epic settings. Like, it's pretty incredible. So yeah, I guess this would be a good time to wrap up.
Yeah.
Considering we're almost at 2-hour mark.
Woo, 2 hours.
So, yeah,
Jesus.
that was fun. Yeah, I'm glad we can get 2 hours conversation out of that.
I mean, we probably could get like 5 hours, but we're being very reserved right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure what our next topic's going to be. You know, we'll think about it, but it's nice that we've been trying to, like, getting kind of like a weekly podcast going.
Yeah, definitely.
And obviously, no one's really going to hear this for like a couple weeks till we get back to school and get Premiere up and running, so we can put this on YouTube.
Yeah.
So yeah, so rest in peace, SoundCloud, not paying $15 a month.
You ain't worth it, my dude.
Yeah, YouTube is free, so we're just gonna go with that. And I also I listen to a lot of podcasts on YouTube, so I think that's the best way to do it.
Oh
honestly.
yeah, probably.
'Cause you can just have it up and play, even if you can't turn your phone off and play it like SoundCloud does. But still, yeah. So we'll switch to YouTube, make things easier. I might just make a separate channel for it.
That would make sense, and then both have login information for it.
Yes, because I don't want to hog it on my channel, and I don't I think it'd be easier to find if it was just and I've seen other people do that too. Although the Game Grumps put it on their channel, but they don't they have a collective channel, so it's
yeah, and they're also the Game Grumps.
Yeah, so they do what they want. So yeah, so that was episode 3.
Woo!
Yeah, hopefully we'll see you guys next week, and this will be up. I don't know, 3 weeks from now maybe. So
yeah.
you can get there. So yeah, thanks for listening if you did, and have a great day, everyone.